Hello, I'm Alan Howson, Executive Chairman of the Independent Ambulance Association, and welcome to this podcast with Karl Demian, Chief Executive of the Ambulance Staff Charity. Welcome, Karl.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you. Good to see you again.
Thank you. Just to set the scene, the Ambulance Staff Charity was originally the Ambulance Services Benevolent Fund and was formed in 1986, when ambulance services were provided solely by the NHS. With the growth, of course, of non-NHS ambulance services, the charity relaunched as the Ambulance Services Charity in 2015, renaming Ambulance Staff Charity in 2016. Okay. Well, Karl, thank you again so much for taking time to meet with me today. Can we start by saying, what's your background and how come you're there sat opposite me today?
Oh, a very varied background, and that includes nothing to do with ambulance services until I joined the charity in the late summer of 2018. I came in to help the charity grow, to restructure itself, and to get an increased focus on the services that we deliver. Learned a huge amount since then, and I have to say I was one of these people that got all my information and knowledge about the ambulance service from watching Holby City and such programs and thought that's how it must be, but it clearly isn't. And it's been interesting to see how the service actually operates. It's been interesting to see the place of the independent ambulance sector within that and how they work together, and also to recognise the shared pressures that are on the staff that work in both the NHS sector and the independent sector.
Indeed, and that sort of leads us on to the first question, as it were, which is what sort of range of services are you providing at TASC for both NHS and independent sector employees?
So if I start with the geographical areas that we cover, which helps to clarify.
Please.
So we cover England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, the Isle of Man, the Channel Islands, and Gibraltar. So we cover all of those areas. I've never been invited to Gibraltar yet to be interviewed for a podcast, but you never know. This could be the start of something exciting. And across all of those territories, we offer the same broad set of support that we do from here. So we'll go in order of the most important one, which is support for people's mental health and mental well-being. That probably covers about 65 to 70% of what we do, and we provide support both in-house through our experienced team, who firstly provide a listening ear. That is an opportunity for people to come to a safe space, to talk about their problems, their issues with their mental health and well-being, and we work with them then to assess the best way that we can support them, which is either through in-house provision of counselling, or if they've got trauma-based conditions, or they've got a bereavement need, for example, or they're having a high degree of suicidal thoughts, we can make sure that we locate them with the right person that can effectively help them. So we do that. We follow the NICE guidelines about how many sessions of support should be a minimum, and we work with people to ensure that we see real progress through the time that we're supporting them, and all of that is provided free of charge to the individual.
Right.
It's a confidential service, it's an impartial service, and it's independent of any of the employer. We will not share data with the employer or anyone else or information, which we think is a really important selling point, because for a lot of people, they are nervous about talking about their mental health. They're particularly nervous about talking about that with their employer, with their managers, because they're not certain how people are going to react. But also there is still stigma around mental health. And within that category, the largest group of people coming for help are people who've got some form of trauma-based issues. One thing about the ambulance service we do know, and this will apply to many of the people working in the independent sector who've previously been in the public sector, will be the repeated exposure to traumatic situations, dealing with members of the public, sometimes in distress, sometimes seeing people at their worst, sometimes facing aggression, assault, etc. within the community. So mental health is really important. The second category we support people with is physical rehabilitation.
Okay.
We work quite closely with some partner charities, which gives us access to rehabilitation facilities across the UK. We then engage and will send people on either 1 or 2 week residential courses where they will engage in a range of physical therapy. They will also be supported with any mental adjustments and emotional adjustments they need to make, and that's really targeted at people who've suffered a severe injury, which is going to be life-changing. So we work very closely with those people. We provide financial support. We are looking to reinstate a grants programme to give hardship grants, but we did have quite a large budget for that in the last financial year, but we spent it and some in response to the cost of living crisis and the continued problems people were having as they came out of COVID. But we focus on, we help people claim benefits. I think so far in the last 3 months, we've secured over £250,000 on an annualised basis of additional benefits for people. And if I was to say to you that 99% of the people that come to us and 100% of people who've used that service are actually employed,
Right.
you can see the importance of that's very, very helpful to people, because although it's often thought that paramedics are well paid, and they are often, there are many roles within both the NHS and the independent sector that are not as well paid, and financial hardship is something that's hitting everyone really hard, so we have that financial support. We also help people, if we can't help them with one-off grants, for example, if someone is suffering from motor neurone disease or a relative is, we can work with them to put them in touch with organisations that can provide practical support, but maybe even financial support, so we provide that information. Right. And finally, we provide active signposting to organisations that can help people who are in debt, having difficulty coping, to put that together. And then the final thing that we provide is support around the family and issues around the family, particularly around bereavement support, but counselling for children. And actually quite a lot of information we provide is designed to help people who are living with a member of the ambulance services and helping them to cope with the problems they're facing on a day-to-day level.
Well, that's some range of services, Karl. What struck me about that was this isn't just about frontline crews. This is about the ambulance community and their families and the challenges that they're facing through, as you say, on the one hand, patients, on the other hand, it's cost of living and everything in between. That's an amazing range of services. And we're out of COVID now, but what's the biggest change you've seen in demand, say, over the last 12 months then?
It's always difficult to be certain about that. I think in the last 12 months, the change has been more people seeking financial support or financial information and advice. The demand for support for mental health and mental well-being is growing sort of 41% year on year. But the actual biggest growth that we've seen, if you like, in percentage terms, has been in financial support areas. And that, again, is partly down to the impact of COVID that it had on people, but I think primarily due to the cost of living crisis that's impacting on everyone. And there doesn't seem to be any light at the end of the tunnel for many, many people.
No, indeed. And of course, money is what you actually need if you're going to provide these services. So that leads us into TASC as a charity are reliant on donations. How can independent ambulance providers support the work of TASC?
I think we have a number of ways in which the independent providers can support TASC. We offer quite a lot of commercial sponsorship packages where people can get involved, can support particular aspects of our work, whether that is specific to a particular category or just in general. You can get involved in fundraising activities. Behind you, Alan, we've got a poster of some people diving out of an aeroplane. I'm sure that's something that would appeal to all of your members.
You don't mind if I decline that?
Not at all, no. But we do take a democratic vote on who should be volunteered. But we do a range of things. There's lots of things that we can support. That can involve the staff. It can involve a sort of corporate day. We also are very open to the idea of sponsoring particular packages, doing things for us, and in fact your association has kindly supported our memorial service, the banner that's behind me this year and next year, and it's partly enabled us to move to an annual service as opposed to a biennial service. And so I think we can get involved in that way. I think money is always an issue. The busier that we are, the more resources are consumed. But also we're very keen that it's a balance, that we would like your organisations to actually promote what we do and work with us to promote that amongst the people that work in the independent sector, because that's why we're here. And that recognition that we can deliver value to the sector, I think then encourages people to support us. We also provide a range of training packages. We launched our new training website earlier this week. That contains a series of courses with a rather, I think, naff strapline designed by me, which is designed by people who understand the ambulance service for people who work in the ambulance service. But this is about staff wellbeing, and what we do is everything that we do has input from individuals that work in the service, and another way of supporting us as well as supporting your staff is to look at engaging us to provide some of that training, which I think is important.
And what we'll do is we'll put some other slides on with contact details, Karl, of how people can get in touch. I thought you were about to set us a challenge on what the association could do as an event to raise money for TASC, and we have a directors meeting on the 16th of June, so if nothing strikes you straight away, then do get back to us.
No, I think that it's a really interesting, what could you do as a challenge? And I think we often say that we've got a number of things that we could line up for you that go from jumping out of airplanes to sunrise walks up Snowdon, to walking up Kilimanjaro. Can you see? I'm just testing things to see the level of enthusiasm for each.
You've not mentioned beach.
We just had a group of ambulance staff who entered a firefighter sailing challenge, which they did launch from the beach. Right. They actually won, and they donated their prize money of £1,000 to us. But what we could do is, if you wanted to come to us and say, is there something we could do? So, for example, to have a task day across your members, where the members organise events, fundraising events, that would be something that could be really positive for us. And we could help you with organising that. We could help with, along with yourselves, the social media of promoting it. And that would be a good way to set that stall. And one thing that could be possible to organise that would be on the day of the memorial service, so that we could make it potentially an annual event that could be supported by TASC publicity and raising awareness of the contribution and the work that's done by people across all the ambulance services. And to take your point earlier on, that's not just about the paramedics on the front line and the ambulance crew on the front line. It's about the control room staff, it's about the patient transport staff, it's about the people that transport people at end of life from a hospital setting to a palliative setting. All of that is really crucial to us. So that's something we could actually do. And part of that, if I was really pushing it hard here, could be a commitment that on that day each of your members took one of our clothing bins or recycling banks onto your site, which again serves the benefit of helping you to get rid of your no longer wanted items of clothing and actually raises money for TASC.
That's great. I'll turn to camera and say, if you're watching this and you're from the independent ambulance sector, watch the space and watch out for a note from me on it. Karl, the work that TASC done, I think, is often not seen by many, but it is very much appreciated by the ambulance sector. Certainly, in the time that I've known you, I've come to appreciate the breadth and scale of what you're doing, which is no small achievement and deserves an awful lot of credit. And raising your profile, and thank you for your time to sit and talk with me and share the views and activities of TASC. We will certainly take that on. I'm more than happy to promote it with our members and the sector more broadly, in order that TASC can carry on doing their great work and perhaps expand their services more.
Thank you. Just from my part, it's been a pleasure to talk with you today. And if there's anything more that we can do to reach out to your people, the staff that work within the independent sector, please let us know. They're a key part of our beneficiary group, and we're not reaching enough of them.
Thank you very much, Karl.
Thank you.
Will do.
Thanks.
Okay.